So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the AESQ meeting. Just a little bit about me to start off. If I can get this right, I'll try not to scream at you guys. And, I started my career with GE, both in aerospace and also in the power business. I spent 25 years with GE, various roles, all the way from a design engineer up through the sites to site leaders with GE, and then finally with supplier quality. I left GE, went to Honeywell. I spent 5 years with Honeywell doing customer quality and also transfer of work for Honeywell. And for the last year, I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary here with PCC, focused around really driving to zero. And so really excited to be here. It feels like I'm coming home. Earl from Pratt and myself were some of the first people in the meetings that really formed AESQ. So I'm excited to see everyone here and how AESQ has grown. Helen and the team and Earl have really taken this to new heights from what was really envisioned when we started this. But as Carol mentioned, she did a great job of really going over the principles of AESQ. And I'd really encourage all the suppliers that are here, please provide your voice into the group because we need to hear from you. We need to hear, what your challenges are, what can make your life easier, and incorporate that into what AESQ is working on. So my topic is why zero defects? And I think it's in a lot of ways a very easy answer, but it's how do we get there? And what I'm going to walk through is some of the things that we've done here at PCC. Hopefully you could take some of these snippets and apply them to your sites, or maybe utilize those to really grow the momentum behind zero defects at your sites. Not saying we're the best. We definitely have things that we need to work on, but we are on a journey. And, as this whole meeting is set up to do, is to share some of the practices, share some of the things that we're doing that maybe someone else can utilize. So where does it start? For us, it's really starting with our leadership. We have the great opportunity that our leader, Mark Donegan, that you saw up here earlier when Dan was talking, is really the driver of Drive to Zero for us. Every meeting he's in, he's talking about EHS and quality, Drive to Zero. It's the first thing he talks about with anyone that he's meeting with. It's the first thing that's presented to him when he has any discussion with any of our sites. So we've got that momentum behind us with regard to the leadership. And that flows all the way down through our leadership chain. So getting that support, getting that drive, getting that mission from our leadership is absolutely key to our drive to zero and our focus on everything we do. The other thing we've done is really implemented the safety management system within PCC. And you'll see this in some of the regulations that are flowing down from the FAA and EASA. And the safety management system is really focused on product safety. So there's 4 pillars in the safety management system. We've incorporated those 4. And I'd ask, and I'm going to do this throughout the presentation, a little bit of interaction. Does anyone know what those 4 pillars are for the SMS? Anyone? No one? Okay. Promotion, Dan better, because Dan is actually running the SMS for PCC. So promotion, right. The 4 pillars for the SMS are really starts with policy. And what are we doing to really ensure that, the product safety is a part of everything we do? So within PCC, we actually created a policy that mirrors the SMS, and we call it our business quality management system. That's patterned off those 4 pillars. It's our governing document with regard to how we're going to drive our quality throughout PCC. The second pillar is around risk management. And this was a big one for us. For us, we've actually built a new team. And that new team is focused around quality management system auditing and also special process or subject matter experts that are going in and looking at our special processes. And so that team reports into me, but it's a brand new team. The oldest member of that team just celebrated his first anniversary in the role, and now we have a team that's at 11. And that team is traveling almost 100% of the time. We have a lot of sites in PCC, as you saw with Dan, and they're focused on going out and doing, let's call it external audits by our corporate team at our sites. And so the internal audits at the sites are still going on, but we bring in the corporate team to take a look at what that site is doing with regard to their QMS and how they're meeting the requirements of AS 9100, but also then bring in any of the special processes that that site is focused in on. This has made a tremendous progress with regard to each one of the sites' knowledge of all the requirements and compliance to those requirements. It also provides a sounding board for the sites and a lot of the level 3s, for example, at the sites to be able to ask questions of. And they've actually created councils for the special processes so that they can share information across each other much quicker and provide some of the best practices from site to site also. So it's been a major initiative that we're still learning and still growing, still figuring out how we can do it better. But this is driving really what I call a foundational element into your quality management system, which then you can build on your 0 defects in your drive to 0. The third pillar is around assurance. So how are you making sure that everything in your management system is where it needs to be? And so there's a couple things that we've really done in the last year, and one is around employee concerns. How do they raise up concerns? How do you understand what is going on all the way down to the operator? So we put in new ways for the operators to be able to communicate and to raise up concerns. Still some work to do. Still things that we are improving and learning from, but we're really trying to improve that voice both ways to the system and getting their inputs on what we need to improve and how do we need to improve it. As I mentioned, also an important part of that is our auditing teams, but we're also doing a lot of process and product audits throughout the sites to make sure that we're delivering what the customer is asking for. Again, very foundational elements to make sure that we have a strong foundation to build on. And then the last one Dan talked about, which is promotion. A ton in this area, and I think we're continuing to try to drive new ways of promoting, and we're going to continue to do that. Because communication is key throughout this entire process on Drive to Quality, making sure that everyone understands where you're at, where you want to go, what the expectations are. And so one thing we did was we had a set of quality rules. We have rewritten those quality rules. There happens to be 13 for us. That just happens to line up with 13 weeks in a quarter. So every week, our teams are talking about a different rule. those rules really make sure that everyone in the sites are focused around quality on a weekly basis. Dan and the team have really done a nice job of incorporating a lot of training material around those rules. So there's 3 different PowerPoint packages for each one of the rules that talk about why the rule exists, talks about some examples of what that rule is all about, and talks about some of the common issues. We've also created what we call video shorts on those quality rules. So each video has a quality short. Those videos, and the reason I call them video shorts is they're less than 4 minutes. So think YouTube, think TikTok, think those type of things where someone can pull up a quality rule, understand what that's about through a conversation with our teams in less than 4 minutes. Again, something you could show at your stand-ups, your all-employee meetings, maybe focus groups around your special processes. So those are some of the tools that we've really incorporated to try to drive the communication and improve the communication around the sites. So that really brings me back to AESQ. And Carol really talked about the AS 13100 suite. It really provides the tools for the suppliers and even the OEMs to really drive to zero. That policy really groups everything you need to be able to really build a better program, build a program that's going to produce results, and really drive the consistency across how we support all of the OEMs and ultimately the airframers for the business. So very important, but as I mentioned, there's always things that we can improve. There's always ways we can simplify. And that's really where the discussions of these members of these teams should be, is how do we continue to really drive those standards that help everyone get to zero, but also make it easier for them to make less mistakes. One of the founding ideas when we started AESQ was simplify the standards, not simplify the standards, but come to a standard that was the same so that actually we reduce the defects that the suppliers produce. Instead of having to reach for a GE book, a Rolls-Royce book, a GKN book, a Pratt book, we only had to reach for one book. And that, in theory, also helps us reduce the escapes that we're generating instead of mixing up, oh, I thought it was a GE part and I applied GE standards. That should help us get to where we need to be, but we need all the suppliers in this room to help us understand where they have trouble with those standards, help us with, hey, we need more training in this particular area. We need more information about what this is really doing. It's unclear. All those things have to be, again, a foundational element to be able to produce the zero defects that we're talking about. The importance of zero defects, I mean, you just have to look at the news to know what that importance of zero defects is. None of us want to be in the newspaper. But every time I get on a plane, I also think about, wow, I know a lot about this business. I know a lot about the issues. That may be true, but I also know all the great people that are making these parts. I know the heart that they put into all of those parts. And I know that they want to make all those parts the way that they should be made every day. And that gives me confidence on getting onto that plane. But that's also the connection that we're trying to form. Again, going back to communication, it's about how do we connect what the operators do on a daily basis to those important points about how important quality is to the flying public. So we're constantly talking about it. Next week, Dan and I will be in the UK holding one of our regional conferences that's within PCC, and we'll be talking about this very subject. How do we make sure that every operator understands the importance of what they do, from making a bolt or a washer all the way to some of the more obvious parts that would go into an engine or an aircraft. But it can always be those simple things and those simple parts that can make a big difference. So having the ability to connect everyone and every operation to ultimately that flying public, we're trying to improve how we do that and how we communicate that to every operator. And I think that's a big reason of why we continue to send those messages all the way through the supply chain on a monthly basis, and having these regional meetings that we're having to really talk about the importance overall of what quality does. And then lastly, I think in what I try to sell, not only to the operators, but also to the site leaders, to our business teams, is really the financial impact of defects. And so again, I'm going to ask the audience, what does zero defects do for your financials? How does it help your financials? How does it help what you do every day? Anyone? Reduce scrap and rework. Yep. What else? Increases on-time delivery. What else?
Focus on engineering attention on genuine improvements rather than concessions.
Right. Focus engineering resources on general improvements rather than concessions. All good stuff. Someone else? Decreases escapes and everything that comes with an escape, right? Other ideas? Reduces inventory. Yep. Yep, increases their trust in our customers and our relationship with the customers. Those are all great things. You guys hit on most of what I was going to say, but I think it's an important reminder to your teams. The drive to zero defects, and drive to zero escapes, it's all focused at the end of the day on your financials. And you can improve substantially your financials at your site level, at your business level, by doing everything that was mentioned here. I think, you sort of hit it on the engineering resources, but I would say it also on the production resources. So if you're doing rework, your people are actually have to go do rework instead of making new parts. You have more cycle time invested into that part now. You can't organically grow because you're working on those defects or you're working on replacing scrap parts. Just think about those, especially, for me running sites. It wasn't always easy convincing my leadership that I needed more people, whether it be engineers, whether it be quality people, whether it be operators. They always wanted me to find a way not to be able to hire those people. Why do you need more quality people? Fix the quality. Why do you need more operators? We're having, 20% overtime. Fix that. So all of this gets fixed with better quality. And so if you have trouble selling that message of what zero defects brings, think about that with your site leaders, with your operations team. Because sometimes your operations team below the site leader can lose that message too. And reminding them of that message, reminding them how easier their job would be if they're not having to work the rework and worry about scrap, worry about resources. It makes their life a little bit easier on a day-to-day basis too. So that's what I'll leave you with. I think connecting all those dots, the communication with your operations teams, your site leaders, your operators, on all the importance of zero defects, that's what's going to help everyone drive to that goal that's going to make the industry even better. So thank you very much. Enjoy your time here, and I will hand it off. All right, thank you.
So hang on. I'm not letting you go that easy. We are a bit ahead of schedule. So I thought we could take the opportunity to ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
And you saw that we are a lot of quality persons here. You're working with quality. And one of the things that you mentioned was that you have to have this coming from leadership.
Yep.
And I kind of guess that sometimes you that are working on quality feels that you might not get to the leadership. It's your thing, take care of the quality. Is that correct? Some nodded. So what has been your trick? What is the message you want to send here? How do you engage your leadership?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I came into the organization, Mark was already on a drive to zero, so I benefited from that. But organically, I have to work every day with our senior leaders. So I'm on the phone almost every day with one of the senior leaders talking about what we're doing, making sure that they get the buy-in, because at the end of the day, those senior leaders are driving the message through their organizations. And if quality is not one of the top messages that they're driving, it's not going to be at the site level. So being on those phone calls with the site, with those senior leaders, the presidents of each one of those divisions, and you could see a lot of them up there when Dan showed the map of PCC, has been extremely important. Communicating to them what is happening on a monthly basis, what we're changing, what we're putting in place, making sure that they're tied in with that has been very important. And so getting their buy-in, not only at Mark's level, but at that next layer down, and having them talk about it every day, having them in their staff meetings, in their production meetings, ask about quality, ask about the new initiative that we're rolling out, has been very key with regard to that also.
So it seems like what you have shared is a well thought through strategy, how to get quality engraved into PCC's way of working. But what has been the challenges, the biggest challenges?
I think it's still with regard to what I mentioned is we've got a lot of new people in the industry, and I think that's throughout these companies that are probably in this room. A lot of people at the operations level, a lot of people at the site level that may not have done quality roles as they came up through their path. So being able to connect the dots to the financials, being able to speak their language and not so much the quality language, has been the other piece that we've been challenged with. And that's why we have the regional meetings that I discussed. The regional meetings that we are doing are really focused around the operations leaders at the sites. It's educating them on some of the quality foundational elements. It's educating them on connecting the dots to the financials and how their life can be better. Because you talk to some of the operations leaders and, those jobs are stressful. They're running around dealing with an issue that, this quality issue, or they're dealing with scrap or everything else, and that's eating up a lot of their days. So how do we make their jobs better? That connecting those dots and understanding at that level how they can improve with quality, even though you've got the message from the top, it's making sure it's going all the way down through. So those regional meetings have been key, and we've done quite a few this year. We've got a few more to do this year and next year, have been absolutely key to that message. And the other group is the site leaders, and we encourage the site leaders to be at those regional meetings as much as possible and spread that word. And we really try to drive some best practice sharing through those meetings too. where we're focused around taking some of the best practices from some of our sites and making sure that there's read across into the other sites. So we do panel discussions, we do some examples in those sessions that really try to drive that connection. But it also gives them now a community that they can reach out to and ask questions to within the company, and I think that's been important too. But it's the communication, connecting those dots, making sure that they understand how their lives can be better financially and pure time. You know, the engineering resource time, it's also that person's time that can become a lot better also.
Is there anyone else that'd like to ask a question to Erik while he's here?
So I fully understand the requirement of on-time delivery. That being a major aerospace company, on-time delivery was a key factor in quality. We all know the news that has gone through. If we have to drive on-time delivery without quality first, this problem is going to continue to happen. And, you know, a lot of bean counters want a lot of the financial experts want the delivery of money, which goes with on-time delivery. Quality has to be the driving factor. At the company I work with, quality manufacturing, or in our case, production, might be driving the car. Quality has a foot on the brake.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, definitely has been in the industry and continues to be in the industry. The idea is to try to move that pendulum by connecting some of the dots that I talked to. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both. And that's really the focus and the drive. And, you know, there's examples out there that show you what happens when we don't have quality, and that costs a lot of money too. So I think it's the focus around how do we continue to drive this message and have those discussions with the leadership team. Focus on those financials. How can I help you improve? If we work this together, we can do everything we just talked about. Less scrap, less cycle, less cost in the actual product. If we don't, we're just doing the same thing. And we're going to have those issues on the back end or after we ship the product, which is what we don't want to do.
One last comment.
Yep.
I'm old enough that in the early to mid 1980s, they had the same concept. They didn't develop an AS13100 document. It was manufacturing shall be in charge of the quality. We will make good parts, and the person who is producing those parts will be policing that policy. That never took off, so I don't know if this is an offshoot or if this is a furtherance of that. Hopefully this grows. I'm all for zero defects because I'll be on a plane later this week, and I'll be on a plane next week, and a couple weeks later I'll be on a plane. So I'm a member of the consumers that want zero defects. So once again, this has been pressed when I was mid to early 1980s, the same concept, different terminology, but the same concept.
I do believe, though, that AESQ was not there at that time, and that we are reaching out to you as a community to help us make the difference. And I'm not saying that that might be widely different from what you tried the last time, but I think that we have realized over time that the cost that comes with poor quality is eating us. We are not doing, and we're putting the resources on the right thing, and we have to. So hang in there and help us achieve our goal.
I agree.
Yep. Okay, Becky, are we good to go? So Erik, thank you very much for taking the time in your busy schedule to be here. We really appreciate it, and of course we really appreciate that you're hosting this event here. So thank you very much, and a little token of our appreciation.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.